Welcome to a very special live episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, March 21st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 162 days, the game against Michigan in 253 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite fruit duck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. All right. So why are we doing a live show? Well, news broke earlier today, and this is news that we've had kind of heard about almost immediately after the Connor Stalions sort of scandal broke. This was something that came out not that long after that. And it was one of those things that was just so weird. And it was like, is that really right? And then now the news has officially come out of the U.S. District Attorney's Office. This all surrounds former Michigan co-offensive coordinator Matt Weiss. He has now been charged with 24 counts by the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Eastern Michigan District. Tony, I have great news. Tony Gerdeman joins me. Tony, I have great news. We don't have bylaws. We have a press release, though, so that's pretty good. We have words on the screen. We'll be reading directly from that because I am not a law-talking guy, but from the U.S. District Attorney's Office, former University of Michigan co-offensive coordinator Matthew Weiss, age 42 of Ann Arbor, was charged today in a 24-count indictment alleging 14 counts of unauthorized access to computers and 10 counts of aggravated identity theft, acting U.S. Attorney Julie A. Beck announced. And so then later on, it says, according to the indictment, between approximately 2015 and January 2023, Weiss gained unauthorized access to student-athlete databases of more than 100 colleges and universities that were maintained by a third-party vendor. After gaining access to those databases, Weiss downloaded the personally identifiable information and medical data of more than 150,000 athletes. Using that information that he obtained from the student-athlete databases and his own internet research, Weiss was able to obtain access to the social media, email, and or cloud storage accounts of more than 2,000 target athletes. Weiss also illegally obtained access to the social media, email, and or cloud storage accounts of more than 1,300 additional students and or alumni from universities across the country. Once Weiss obtained access to these accounts, he downloaded personal, intimate digital photographs and videos that were never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. So that's just kind of the first part of this. And I think the most amazing thing to me is this is something that had come out, and it was just sort of like you heard sort of through the grapevine that this was kind of the general scope of why he was fired. Because he was fired early 2023. This was months and months before anyone had heard anything about the Connor Stalions thing. But it was just kind of like this really weird thing. And you sort of heard from people like, this is sort of the neighborhood of what it was. And then nothing happened, and nothing happened, and nothing happened, and nothing happened. And here we are 24 months later, more than that. And now it's like, okay, it sounded too weird to be true, but apparently no, this is what he is accused of doing.
Yeah, and once this all broke and you hear computer crimes and the FBI is at your house and all of those different things, your mind goes a bunch of different places. And this was definitely one of them. And then you start to hear more and more as things go on that it was likely this. So then when this comes down today, I don't think anybody's surprised. It's not old news by any means, but it's like expected news, basically. And to like just wipe it away like, well, this is old news. It's not old news to Matt Weiss. He's going through it right now. And this is legit. It's not old news to the victims and all of that who are finding things out along the way. So, yeah, it's a long time, we've been doing this for a long time at many different venues and many different places. And fortunately they caught him. And really that's the most important thing here is this is beyond football or anything like that. He's off the streets right now. And hopefully, if he's guilty, then he stays off the streets.
Yeah. And so just to get into the, this isn't like funny. This is not a like, haha thing. If convicted, this is from the same press release. If convicted, Weiss faces a maximum of 5 years imprisonment on each count of unauthorized access to computers and 2 years on each count of aggravated identity theft. Conviction on a count of aggravated identity theft triggers a 2-year mandatory minimum sentence to be served consecutive to the sentence imposed for the underlying offense. An indictment is only a charge and is not evidence of guilt. It will be the government's burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. and then it goes on to the who's prosecuting it, the investigation being conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So, this is not like, oh, this is not like, oh, look, it's Porky's, it's funny, like, they're spying on the, like, it's like, this is like real serious years to decades in prison kind of stuff, and very, very serious. So, I think, first of all, I would caution everyone in the comments to, take it in that way and not, take it in, as a haha, look at this terrible thing. And this is, this reflects on everyone in the state of Michigan. Like, let's keep it sort of together there. Now, I think the thing that is the immediate follow-up to this that everyone is going to ask is, okay, so is this how, the FBI found this, and then this is how 10 months later, 9 months later, this is how they got to Connor Stallions. And narratively, it's like, yeah, that would paint a very logical picture. You'd make, okay, they're digging around and they find, well, hey, what's this? I have been consistently told, and I don't know if that's the case for you as well, but I have been consistently told that that's not exactly how it happened. It's not that the FBI found all this and immediately turned it over, and that this is the genesis of the whole Connor Stallions thing.
Well, and yeah, I don't know all of the facts in that either, in terms of what did this lead to. The bottom line is, these can be related or they can be unrelated, but they're both happening and they're both, existing. And this, because I've seen some almost celebrating from the Michigan side of things, saying, hey, the FBI didn't say anything about, hacking into practice footage or anything like that. So, that didn't happen. We're in the clear. And I'm thinking, well, the FBI, if they find a body in the woods and they charge somebody, they're not also going to mention, and we're charging this person with trespassing, these are some serious, like, major charges, and the NCAA level is like, they're not even, necessarily concerned about anything like that. So like, that could all be taking place and be part of this as well. But it's like, this is like, if all of the maximums are met, I think he's facing like 90 years in prison or something. So like, that is where the focus is going to be, because they want him off the streets. And later on, maybe, like, this is not it's not like a Al Capone RICO thing. This is the only thing we could get him on. Like, they've 150,000 names that he's downloaded and had access to, allegedly. But it sounds like they've got him pretty dead to rights based on the 8 years of activity and the computers that have been gathered. So it sounds like, and the just leaving comments on certain people's in his files, basically, on preferences and things of that nature. And so, like, as meticulous as Matt Weiss apparently allegedly was, the FBI and the even like the Michigan PD, the University of Michigan PD, sounds like they were just as meticulous in making sure that they did this right, and that this is absolutely 100% legit.
Yeah, it feels like, if you take 2 years to present a case, like, generally, if it's computer stuff, there's generally logs. And if you have stuff on your computer, that makes it pretty hard to say, I don't have that. What do you mean? Like, that makes that a pretty difficult thing. And yeah, if he's accessing 2,000 people's accounts and he has 12, he's being charged with 12 counts of this or that, like, that means there's probably other stuff that could be charged or could be charged later. That's not an uncommon thing in terms of, you don't have to, this is not a serial killer thing, but you don't charge a serial killer with every murder, because then you can potentially charge them later if the initial case gets screwed up, something like that. So, this is not and this is everything he ever did. He never ran a red light once. Like, that's not what that is. But yeah, I think I would caution people to not, and again, on the Ohio State side, I would caution people to not take too much glee in this kind of thing, because these are like real victims who have real, who have been suffered like real harm through this. But I would also caution the Michigan people to say, like, this is not and you're free and you're totally out of the woods. This is what he's being charged with right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's not other stuff out there sort of lurking. So, I also go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, I don't want to speculate, so I'll just state a fact. Somebody that would do this would have no problem participating in something else that Michigan has been accused of. Like this, that somebody's going to come up to him and be like, "Hey, I've got this sign stealing thing. I've got this system I like. You want to be a part of it, or you want to take a look at it?" He's not going to be like, "Whoa, sir, how dare you bring that to me?" Like this is a guy. A guy like this would have no issues with something like what else Michigan is being accused of.
Yeah, and let's again sort of spell this out. Adam asks, is this related to stallion sign stealing or separate? This is an entirely different thing. This is a separate case. Like Stallions is not accused of doing any of this stuff as far as anyone is aware. So, and this is not, the FBI is not investigating the Stallion stuff, and the NCAA is, as far as we're not doing anything related to this case. This is not something where we had someone on our board ask, is this something that could be, further issue, further violation, something like that. This is not something that would be an NCAA violation. Like the NCAA doesn't enforce traffic laws. The NCAA doesn't enforce murder. That's a whole separate thing. The FBI does not care about whether you are illegally videotaping games for scouting purposes, and the NCAA does not, is not in charge of enforcing this. So these are kind of two separate things. It's not. Go ahead.
And even to say like illegally recording games, it's not, it's improperly, I guess would be the better way to say it when we're talking like legal and what is wrong per the NCAA's eyes and what is wrong per the FBI's eyes. The FBI is like, I don't have time to worry about Connor Stallion's friends that he's buying tickets for all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The FBI has like actual crimes to chase down. So that's kind of the broad strokes here. And again, my understanding from what I have been told is that this is not how this all came, the whole Connor Stalions investigation came to be. That is what I have been very consistently told. Like I said, we had heard about a lot of the specifics around this not immediately when it first came out, but relatively soon. 2023 had heard some of these specifics, and it was kind of like, really? But here is the indictment from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So that is sort of where this stands. It's probably not accurate to say these are 100% totally unrelated in any way for reasons that Tony sort of laid out earlier. Like, Weiss may have been involved, we don't know, in the Stallion stuff to some degree that is provable or not. We'll all find out. This, the news today is, I think this is the big takeaway. The news today is neither, great news for people who are Michigan fans in that it completely exonerates them from anything involving Weiss and, accessing practice footage, which apparently is something that people are talking about now out loud. That's interesting. That's, it neither completely exonerates them from that. It also does not mean, and that means he's also guilty of all this other stuff, and everyone in Michigan, that they're separate in this kind of, in this case. They're largely unrelated cases, let's say, at the very least, and will be, are being pursued by unrelated organizations. So it is not going to immediately trigger a lack of institutional control thing from the NCAA in terms of Michigan or anything like that. That's, those are separate cases. So, I think those are kind of the major things I wanted to, make sure we sort of cleared up, because again, with so much of this stuff, every time we have these conversations, I have to think back and like go back through, like, what have we talked about on the air? And like, when people are asking us, well, what about this? It's like, all right, where did that come from? Because there's been some real misinformation put out there. And not, and so we're trying to steer clear of that as well. Uncle Rico says, in no way can this be spun as a good thing, but they're trying. I mean, that's kind of been a consistent thread from some folks, where everything is good news, or everything is bad news. And it's like, that's probably, as with a lot in life, Tony, you can choose your realm of the current world that we live in. Not everything is bad news. Not everything is good news. The truth generally will lie somewhere in the middle there.
The spinning is, I kind of mentioned it earlier, where, hey, the FBI didn't say anything about Ohio State, or or Counter Stallions, so it's all clear. And then I'm also thinking today of what do the depositions look like? Like how deep do they get into that? And is it all just, I assume, like, they probably don't even need to get into the NCAA aspect of things with all of that. So I don't know how much he would even contribute to that in terms of like finding out more on record about what was known, what wasn't known, and if they're actually, what was going on. I do, though, Tom. I found myself today thinking about Matt Weiss's, former coworkers, who had to be shocked and appalled and dismayed at finding out that a coworker was improperly accessing databases and files that they had no business messing with. And so my thoughts go out to those people who were betrayed, and just terrible thing for them to find out that somebody could be so untrustworthy as to do something like that.
Let's move before I get in trouble. Let's move on to Mike Farino. Obviously not, he's super chat, obviously not confirmed at this, but if he had access to student university accounts, which it seems like he did, it would be ridiculously simple to then gain access to practice footage. That's, I think that's one of the things that, it's not that difficult to draw a line between, if he, if you have the know-how to do what he's accused of doing here, and again, as the release says, he does not mean he's guilty, just means that he's been charged with these crimes. If you have the know-how to do that, then you would, seemingly have the know-how to hack into other systems, gain access in an unauthorized way into other systems to find, to get other information, or, images or video or whatever like that. That's not, this does not mean that he did that, but it also, as you said, is, certainly like, well, he has some familiarity with this particular space, so it wouldn't be completely crazy to draw that parallel. And Mozart's Ghost, just to sort of reiterate, he may, for those who may be joining late, like what the specifics of what we're talking about. Mozart's Ghost says, does anyone know what kind of files or media he was getting access to? I guess I just don't understand what he was gaining from all this. I'm just going to pull up the press release again from the U.S. District Attorney's Office. And it says, Weiss downloaded the personally identifiable information and medical data of more than 150,000 athletes using that information that he obtained from the student-athlete databases and his own internet research. Weiss was able to obtain access to the social media, email, and/or cloud storage accounts of more than 2,000 target athletes. Weiss also illegally obtained access to the social media, email, and/or cloud storage accounts of more than 1,300 additional students and/or alumni from universities across the country. Here it is. Once Weiss obtained access to these accounts, he downloaded personal, intimate digital photographs and videos that were never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. So, we can, you can probably get find your way from there to what exactly he was looking at.
Well, and the Detroit Free Press details some of what's in the indictment, and it said Weiss primarily targeted female college athletes. He researched and targeted these women based on their school affiliation, athletic history, and characteristics. His goal was to obtain private photographs and videos never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. So you can, what that is.
Yes. Yeah. So, again, like this is the stuff that when this first kind of was rumored, it was like, really that, but apparently, yes, that is what he's accused of doing. And I want to, there's been some disagreement in the comments about where Weiss was. And when he was there, the indictment talks about him doing this from 2015 to 2023. He only went to Michigan in 2021. He was the co-offensive coordinator there, 2021 and 2022. So this is, some of this predates his time at Michigan, but does include his time at Michigan. So he was only at Michigan for 2 seasons, 2021 and 2022, and then he worked for John Harbaugh and then worked for Jim Harbaugh. And then he was accused of failing to cooperate with the university's investigation into these allegations in 2023. And at that point, he was terminated from his job at Michigan. So that's the timeline there. So that's sort of the broad strokes there. Robert says, I hate that some people are actually celebrating that it had nothing to do with Stallions. As a fan, those would not be my thoughts upon hearing this news. And, as we said earlier, this is not something to celebrate whether you're a Michigan fan or an Ohio State fan or a Michigan State fan or anything else. Like this is other than the fact that, if he did the things he's accused of doing, it's good that he's not able to do them anymore. Other than that, there's not anything to celebrate here. Like this is pretty gross invasion of privacy if it all happened the way it happened. And, so that's not something to be celebrated. And also this is not a firm, I read the whole release like 3 times. I did not see, and this is, and nothing bad is going to happen to the University of Michigan in the Connor Stallions thing. That was not in the report. So, these are kind of, unrelated. Just for another super chat from Mike Farino, just to further clarify his point, if anyone had access to a single OSU player or staff's email, they likely would have single sign-on access to the practice footage or be able to reset passwords for footage. Doesn't mean it happened though. I mean, and that's one of those things where, if you were able to gain access to email accounts and social media accounts and all that kind of stuff, which the indictment spells out that he was able to do, then to Mike's point, yes, then you would potentially be able to have access to that in other areas with other student athletes. And it does not specifically say that this was, it doesn't spell out which schools were involved here. It just says that it was more than the athlete databases of more than 100 colleges and universities that were maintained by a third-party vendor. It does not say what that third-party vendor was in the indictment or the announcement of the indictment. But to Mike's point, yes, if you were able to access that, then you would you would not just be limited to email accounts and social media accounts.
I think, and I'm not speculating, I just think if you are able to gain access to all kinds of social media accounts, and this is the kind of person that you are, do you stop at the football side of things? Like, does that, it's like, no, I have this power, I can use it for evil. How much evil, or where do you not use it? And do you draw a line somewhere? And it's like, I don't know that there would be a line drawn other than the fact of the mental side of doing this is so far beyond sports. So like it maybe never touches that realm because this has nothing to do with sports. This is something else entirely. This is basically your secret life. And so, a lot of people will want to keep their secret life away from their real life. If you're going to do that though, don't do it on your work computers. That's it really, really just terrible practice. And a guy that, as we said earlier, glad he's off the streets if he's guilty. I mean, and it sure sounds like he is. And, if it's only, hopefully it doesn't happen again. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is Hummus Hero says, man, Michigan is really going to get the hammer. I wasn't sure before this bombshell. This, I don't think is going to have a direct impact on the NCAA case. Like this is not going to, I don't think this is going to result in a new notice of allegations from the NCAA because these are not NCAA violations. They're criminal violations, not NCAA violations. So I don't think this materially impacts the notice of allegations. There's stuff where, there, you could, one thing could lead to another, or the one investigation could lead to findings that help the other, or something like that. But it's not, this, what he's accused of here, these are all very serious charges. These are not NCAA charges. So I don't think this materially changes Michigan's situation vis-a-vis the NCAA. But it's not, this is not part of that. This is a kind of a standalone thing where, also bad, a very different level of bad. This is a far more serious matter than what we're talking about with the Connor Stallion stuff. So I just want to sort of make sure we've kind of drawn those lines around that.
Yeah. The hammer here is headed for Weiss, not Michigan.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's a good way to draw that distinction. Wingman Ted says this feels like this will play out similar to like a Larry Nassar situation, bad for the university, not necessarily for the program. I doubt they would tie it to cheeseburgers and Stein sealing. They're not going to tie it to the other NCAA investigations. And I don't know, from all accounts, Michigan has treated this seriously and brought it forward at the time that they were made aware of it. So, again, we don't know a lot of the specifics. We had heard some sort of broad strokes on this when it first sort of happened. And then you've sort of been waiting for this news and waiting for this news and waiting for this news. And it's been 2 years. And then now it's come down. But, from what I understand of the situation, this is not something where Michigan as an institution was covering this up for a long time or anything like that. That's my understanding of this. Let's do IT corner for a minute right here. Mozart's Ghost says, always use different passwords, and even better, random generate them. Yes, a password, as if anyone who works in a corporate setting has had to do IT training or any of that kind of stuff. Yes, use your password managers and use your suggest a strong password from Google. Don't just use password 123 like Tony uses on his luggage.
But here's my thing, Tom. Those random generated passwords are too damn hard to remember.
That's what the password manager is for, Tony. That's what the password manager is for.
You mean to post it on my computer?
Okay, so we're gonna just kind of circle back real quick, just for folks who maybe are joining a little bit late, missed the beginning, just catching up. We'll rewatch Cliff Notes. We'll just give you the general basics. Again, this is the official press release from the U.S. District Attorney's Office, or the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Michigan. Former University of Michigan co-offensive coordinator Matthew Weiss, age 42 of Ann Arbor, was charged today in a 24-count indictment alleging 14 counts of unauthorized access to computers and 10 counts of aggravated identity theft. According to the indictment, between approximately 2015 and January 2023, and I'm just going to interject again here, 2021 to 2023 is when he was at Michigan. This was not entirely during his time at Michigan, but encapsulates his entire time at Michigan, if that makes sense. Back to the release. Weiss gained unauthorized access to student-athlete databases of more than 100 colleges and universities that were maintained by a third-party vendor. After gaining access to these databases, Weiss downloaded the personal identifiable information and medical data of more than 150,000 athletes. Using the information that he obtained from the student-athlete databases and his own internet research, Weiss was able to obtain access to the social media, email, and/or cloud storage accounts of more than 2,000 target athletes. Weiss also illegally obtained access to the social media, email, and/or cloud storage accounts of more than 1,300 additional students and/or alumni from universities across the country. Once Weiss obtained access to these accounts, he downloaded personal, intimate digital photographs and videos that were never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. So we'll, for those watching with kids, we'll leave it there, and you can fill in the blanks yourselves. But that's sort of where this is, what this case is. And this is, again, just to sort of reiterate, this is not something that's going to materially change the NCAA's case from all indications, because there's not NCAA violations. This is not something that is going to, completely, this is stuff that I think a lot of people are hearing about this for the first time now. There are a lot of people who also are not hearing about this for the first time now, that this has sort of been like, one of those things that we have not talked about because it hasn't been out there, but this has been like long discussed as like, here's the broad strokes of what was going on with that case. And that it was not, he was not fired because he was accessing, anything related to Connor Stallions. All right.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things where you don't even necessarily want to talk about it until it's out there,
Correct.
like out there, because it is so disgusting.
Yeah. It's something that is, again, we have been relatively restrained in terms of what we're talking about, and trying to have multiple good sources and like be sure about stuff before we're talking about it, because what we don't want to do is sort of fire hose stuff out and then have to come back to you 3 weeks later and go, well, actually we were wrong about this, and it turns out that was different. Like, that's how we've sort of approached this whole thing, which means it has been a little bit less, sensationalistic in all caps than other folks, and that's fine. Like, that's how we're choosing to approach this. But yeah, it is it's again, not a pretty disturbing case, but not something that is probably materially going to impact anything in terms of the NCAA case about with Michigan. I'm just sort of scrolling through here. Wingman Ted says, nope. Wingman Ted says, how many things has Tom read to us about Michigan controversies, jargon, legalese, bylaws? It's like another bedtime story. Listen, I'm all here. I'm here for you guys. Just want to, again, we're doing this to, we are giving you the jargon and legalese and bylaws, because that's the stuff, that's the actual, that's the actual basis of how this stuff is going to get decided, and what this stuff is all mean, what all this stuff actually means, and, not just sort of like throwing stuff against the wall.
Can I give you one of the tweets that I saw today from a Michigan fan quote tweeting about this?
I meant to pull it and I didn't, and that's on me, and I apologize.
Now I won't read it as it is written because I'll sound like an idiot, but so it's basically, it says this. Well, I'm going to read some of it like it's written. So for you so-called experts who are speculating, what really happened is Weiss gained access to Cade McNamara and Eric All's emails because of Iowa's tampering to get them to transfer. And he was trying to expose it, but did it in a wrong way. So you say criminal, I say hero that just fell short. And maybe, like the idea that like vigilante, I guess, is a word that we could use for this. And he was trying to stop the evils of Iowa football and Kirk Ferentz, or perhaps maybe even Brian Ferentz, which, again, Tom, you of all people, how are you going to damn this person?
Well, and again, I think not just, to have the foresight, Tony, to have started, as the indictment says, between approximately 2015 and January 2023, to have the foresight to have done it when Cade McNamara was a junior in high school. I mean, that's that shows remarkable foresight to have done that while he was, I think, with the Baltimore Ravens at that point. So yeah, I mean, certainly a possibility. As with so much these days, Tony, you read that and you're like, I can't tell. I've lost the ability to tell if this is sarcasm or someone who genuinely thinks this. That's
well, that's why I had to explore the account, and no, they believe this.
Yeah, that was I saw that and I thought I need to pull that for this show, and then I didn't do it, and I forgot. So that, I think that's going to do it. I think we're in a good shape. I do want to thank, we have some of our members here. TK, that tweet is a Hall of Famer. Strong agree. Doreen, I've seen Doreen here. Doreen, a member. We really appreciate that. If you guys want to support us, you can become a member of our channel. It's just one of those little ways you can help us out. You can also become a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team, and Mark covers recruiting. We got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there as well. Really fun and active thread on our board. I think the Michigan scandal thread is probably somewhere around 10,000 posts or something like that right now. We're getting there. So it is, if you want to talk about this with us, we'll talk about it there. We have members who are pretty plugged in on a lot of this stuff as well, who share some of their own insights that we're not necessarily at liberty to share on our own here. So that's one of the many reasons to consider becoming a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. You get access for just $4.99 for your first month as well. So, and with spring ball here, Tony, we should probably do a live show about spring football at some point too. We did a whole Buckeye Weekly show about spring football earlier today. So you can find that in the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed. But yeah, we will be having plenty to talk about. Got a chance to watch a couple of Ohio State practices this week. Got to have a lot to talk about that. We've been have all sorts of photos and reports and all kinds of fun stuff. Plus, it is a busy time in recruiting, all that fun stuff. So we'd love to see you there at BuckeyeHuddle.com to talk about all of that with us. So, all right. Thank you guys all for joining us on relatively short notice. Wanted to kind of break this all down for you and let you know sort of here's what's going on. Here's what it means. Here's what it doesn't mean, probably as importantly as anything else. So there you go. Thank you guys all for joining us, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.